All right, so this is using query for April 5, 2021. And we wanted to take some time and show the public some of the wires we've been working on and showing to different audiences of users and friends of the project and give them just a tour. We've done this a few times before with front end and desktop and Query Cloud as those wires came into fruition. So here's our effort to converge what we've been calling Querymatic and Query Cloud into what will just be called Query when this is all said and done. So I just want to take you on a little bit of a tour of kind of the interfaces we see it working today, with a lot of these being work in progress and likely to change. But a dataset preview page we want to make as simple as possible, offering a couple of views of some of the key components to help you get acquainted, like a README and a preview of some of the body in a table format, so you can kind of take a look and inspect it and blow it out if you really want to get more detailed view. But we thought about elevating the latest commit message as an important point of explaining how this is a version control system at its core, and we want to promote the latest version of a data set is probably in most cases what the user is most likely to be interested in. So that's why we included this on this preview page. Some familiar icons and indicators that users of Query Cloud will be familiar with: followers, people who've subscribed to your data set updates and get alerted as your data changes, people who've number of downloads, an open issues queue, which we can show you. And this is what's kind of fun and new, the automated indicator showing you that this data set is subject to automated updates through a transform script through this automation thing. You can still kind of share and get some options for how to do that, to manage your collaborators, make anyone who has a link an editor or a viewer. You can download and get some options for downloading the entire data set together or by component, and then directly downloading the file by punching into these buttons. And you're reminded of the version here. From there, we wanted to focus on the history tab, since again, this is a version control system at its core, inspecting a data set's history being pretty important. So as I click between the two, I think what we want you to notice, at least in this version, is that a lot of the top stays the same, kind of keeping you familiarized. As we change a lot of data that we're about to show you, we want to make the interface a little bit familiar from one page to another. But the title bar is the same. You're still looking at this latest commit, but we introduce this panel on the left-hand side called history. This whole page is history, but this panel on the left-hand side, which users of Query Cloud will maybe understand as the train tracks that track through different versions. And we laid out on the right-hand side a big pane for showing you what the state of this component looks like at a respective version. So in this case, version 12, this version, which I've selected because you can tell the red dot is lit up, was done by Chris Wong about 2 minutes ago on 12/26/2020. This is what the body looks like. And then this is all draft, but this is what the structure might look like, get a sense for what the column types, data types are in the descriptions, basic README information, some metadata on keywords and tabs, and if this is automated, the script that used to do this. So this will all get cleaned up a little bit, but the idea being you can then inspect on the left-hand side and click on the different versions and see the state of those respective components at that point in time. I think the other thing we want to introduce, which we're kind of excited about, is this sort of Scantron glyph light up system. We're giving you a quick view of which components were created in a given commit, so that would be green, which were edited from the previous version, those would show up as yellow, and which might have been deleted, and those would show up as red. We've been interviewing folks, and some people find that intuitive. Some people think red means bad. Obviously, every user is going to bring their own biases into this, but we're soliciting feedback on really all of these screens and all of these flows, and I'd be very curious if you're watching this to kind of reach out and let us know what you think about this. From there, I would love to take you to the collection. So without telling you, I kind of started with, pretend someone sends you to a direct, link to a direct direct URL to a query data set. This is, again, the preview page you might find. If you wanted to then go check out your own collection, this is what current mockup looks like. And what we're showing you here is just the name of your data set with some basic metadata. 3 indicators, at least today, that show you if it's not filled in, this data set is not automated. If it is filled in gray, well, let me start it this way. If automation is live and potentially working on this data set, you'd see it filled in with this nice blue. And if it's been paused, you would see this filled in gray. And so essentially what we're showing you side by side is the data set and some basic info, as well as when it is likely to update if it is attached to a script. This button here is for manually running that, so overriding the schedule and just run this for me now. Once you've pressed that button, you might see something like this that with 12 minutes, we expect this to finish running in about 12 minutes. And some other options which we haven't really worked out, but other things you can do with it. Other sort of things we wanted to show people, this integer on the left-hand side of the last run column is meant to show the job number so that teams can communicate around a specific run. So instead of saying, can we talk about that run that ran at midnight or 12:01 or 12:02, it's run 32, 33, 34. So just a unique ID for the specific run. We then also kind of, again, early versions of introducing our users to these concepts. If a job is currently running, just the word running is there. If it has failed, a nice big red failure message. If it's succeeded, I think we'll have some user education work to do on this, but this means that the data has changed, that a new data set version is there for you to the script has generated a new version that doesn't match the previous, one of the previous components. And then blue, which is it ran successfully, but the data is the same as the last time this schedule ran. And then we've got some batch actions for managing, multiple parts of your collection, deleting a lot or sharing a few or things like that. From here, I think we would probably take people to the, let's go here. Issues queue. So in terms of like guiding a conversation around your data set, this exists in Query Cloud today and is live, but again, we're kind of syncing this together. And here we see an issue opened by Subway Jack 77 2 months ago, and 3 other people, this conversation is 3 salvos long. You can open up a new issue, at least here, type it and submit. We wanted to keep this screen a little bit simple. Oh, another thing. So this, you had this clue again at the top, but 8 open issues on this data set. When you click down to here, you see that 8 are open and 10 are closed. And you can slide, click this and see the filter by just the closed messages if you'd like. A feature that's kind of standard. Those are most of the wires. Typically what Chris and I do now is throw open Rosebud to show the workflow editor, but one of our teammates is going to be Teffy. I guess I should introduce her to the universe of yours. Is going to be mocking up what users will see when, let's say they're tempted to check out how this is automated or what the script says, and let me play with it. This is the icon we would have them hit under dataset actions or dataset menu. Sorry, no, this dataset actions, that was a word for a different thing, but punching that automation button will bring you to a workflow editor code editor that will let you write and manage write the script and manage its periodicity, so you can have it update as you like. That's a little bit of a whirlwind, but those are typically the screens that, like I said, Chris and I have been showing to folks and getting their feedback. And instead of educating them on what they're seeing, we've been typically like asking them to tell us what they think they see and what they expect their behaviors to be. I think I'll pause there. And I know I'm speaking to the team mostly who have seen these, but if there's anything you guys would like our universe of watchers to understand about what I've just shown, please shout it out. Or if you want me to check out anything. If not, we can keep this.
I wanted to float an idea. If no one else has chimed in, maybe we can get some feedback from people on the team. Can you go to the history view?
Yeah.
So the idea was to elevate the status of body simply by making its tab wider and making its glyph. So the tab itself would be wider, maybe like a third of the screen, and the other ones just all get respectively shorter and fill the rest of the space. And then the same thing for when they're in the list view, the like glyph on the left would be bigger than the others. And it kind of just means the body is more important. That's why you came here. It's basically the data set with all the other stuff.
B5's head's bouncing side to side a little bit. Yeah, no obvious strong points of view.
It also helps a bit to solve the problem of people who aren't used to body referring to the primary part of the data, you know? Next.
Totally. There's been an active debate on the product team of changing body to just data.
I mean, I like how symmetrical this all is. I guess I'll happy to look at another version. But
yeah, it could also just be subtle, right? Like maybe it's just, you know, like maybe it's not like a third of the screen. Maybe it's an extra.
I think it's at least worth trying. And like,
yeah. Cool. In terms of where we're going next, we've heard a lot of people seeming to take an interest in how to filter this history view, well, to look at maybe all of the body changes, because that's the only component I care about, or, you know, I really want to monitor Chris Wong. That's a new person on my team, and I just need to check out his work. So being able to filter by some different things that allows you kind of to take a closer look, because right now, you know, we've got this scrolling feature, but there's that. And then, you know, the concept of change reports is a whole nother area of work we'll have to do in future versions.
I don't know if I've ever made this point, but I really, really dig the wraparound sidebar, top bar. Do you guys know what I mean? Like there's
the curvy corner.
Like, yeah, this idea of I think it solves a couple of like context problems that I think works nicely. Like I expect those to change when you go to dashboard or collection, and I expect those side things to. Yeah, I just think it's like a good use of real estate. The thing, Asmir mentioned in chat about not getting the gears, and I'm just gonna be real. My first thing when I saw that was I thought it was the Nickelodeon splat, and I don't know if it's just the number of cogs reminded me of that, but I just wanted to.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, no piece of feedback is too small, because I think that's all really helpful.
Anytime you need to zoom in like you are, Rico.
I was just going to say,
the icon is illegible.
Yeah, we've decided to make it small and in a lot of places for that reason. And if the smallness clouds the clarity of it, then that's a trade-off we're going to have to reevaluate.
I got a question. If a data set isn't private, does it have an icon that says public, or does it have nothing?
I think this would be an unlocked lock, and it would say public.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Or maybe I mean, we already have a globe on the share button, but like maybe a globe. I don't know, just
maybe a different globe. Yeah, like a globe of children holding hands around it.
Yeah.
Or shared. I think there's kind of 3 states, right? One is private, one is like shared, meaning I've sent this URL around, which is kind of public, potentially public.
Well, it's the unlisted concept, right?
Right, exactly.
You need the link, yeah.
Well, actually, I don't know. We should talk about that, but I think there's explicit like sharing with users, and then maybe there's multiple levels of public, which one would be like unlisted and one would be like listed, like show up in the catalog, but both of them are like read-only public links. So if you get that, you would only be able to check out like preview and history and activity feed and issues, and not, well, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, I think that's what we need to hash that out of like what it actually means. But I think we do have a sharing. Can you click on share? Yeah, this was mostly like inspired by, I think the way DeepNote does it. But you can basically say anyone with a link can view, and that will make it public, or you can add specific collaborators. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a fan of, in that moment, it's switching to saying unlisted. It's like, and then if you hovered over it, it said only people with a link can view.
Yeah. Dig that.
Oh, look at these prototypes.
You know,
click stuff, you know what's supposed to happen. It's amazing.
Cool. And I think the other sort of thing, this is actually an outdated version of what this commit preview would be like. I think we want to simplify this and make it really clean, and then offer a lot of information on in the tooltip when you hover, and then let you dig in, by clicking that, you get all the information you could ever want right up here. But just to keep this as simple as possible, because we've gotten a lot of feedback that this is quite a lot of colors and new icons and new concepts right in the gate. So want this to be intuitive too. Yeah, B5.
Can I ask a different question about issues?
Sure.
So in user interview, we had someone bring up a really interesting point that the issues here, they saw our issues mock-up and said, all right, I have email, I have Slack, I have GitHub, and I have, and they mentioned, and they couldn't even think of the 4th thing, but like a lot of different places where I have to go to manage my issues. And so we haven't really, I don't want to take up too long for this, but like, I'd love to just put to the team how we would answer that question. Like, and should we be building another place to communicate, or should we try and modify the way that we approach the notion of issues? Yeah, just generally like table that discussion.
I would say that the person we heard that from also said, I'm sure your answer to this is, well, you won't have to check email anymore once you have query. And so, I don't know, I think like, I'm interested, Chris and I also interviewed somebody else who had said, please I have notification fatigue, which is not quite the same thing, but she said, please don't send me any email every time someone edits this update. We'll let you manage that. But my sort of point is, we use Dropbox and Google Sheets and a few different things with a lot of overlapping functionality. And I don't know, I think we should think about it. But that's, I don't know, problem number 402 for me. There will have to be an issues queue of some kind.
I think, the answer to it is just granular control over send me nothing and I'll come check when I'm interested. And then, various other levels of like, yes, send me all communications on this data set, send me only communication, only new issues, or only send me the ones that I'm participating in. But yeah, I think I think this is a huge missing, like this is part of the like there can be internal issue queues. I think this is part of documentation for the data set. So it's an extension of, it's an extension of a README. Maybe a lot of the questions that get answered in these end up in READMEs, but there needs to be a forum for this that's like directly connected to the data set, I think. And I think that's where we have the power to control that with a user interface and a URL, set of URLs, and like really say this belongs with your data set, whether you choose to use it or not, but it's there. And I mean, it's existed on cloud for a while, but haven't had a ton of traction around it. But I do think that will change once people are able to confidently put more data into this and automate it and make things that are a lot more complex.
Yeah, totally. I think I see the value. I'm also just like, I think that we could be even a little more nuanced with it. Both the person who mentioned that they have notification fatigue and the person who has like, there's like, I have too many communication inbound places. Both of those people are on the receiving end of those communications, right? So they're kind of slightly different. We can basically subdivide the personas. I think it's really valuable to have a box somewhere that says, I want to ask a question, or I want to sort of like, I want to make some note about a data set. I want to post an issue, right? I think being able to do that is really, really, really valuable. Even if it's just goes unanswered or like as a thing to bind to a data set. I'm not in any way lost to that. But I think there's a separate persona that has a completely different take on that same feature, which is like, now you're creating more work for me. You're creating another place that I have to check. And so I think that like, Mike, the question that I'm asking the group is, how do we execute issues in the best way possible? Not how do we not do issues? And I think that like the best way to execute issues is like a deep meditation on like, okay, we want to make sure that the person who ultimately can answer that question is in a position to answer that question and does. And that's not always the person who wrote the data set, right? Like it can be someone who is a collaborator on the data set, or someone who just is an extensive user of the data set. So yeah, just it's a question there. Like in my head, I'm like, do we think about a way to like have issues deeply, deeply integrated with Slack, so that if there's just a Slack channel and all of your issues for all of your data sets go into one place, and you just like use like a threaded reply system, and that automatically replies to the thing, so that I don't have to leave Slack and I can still monitor all my query issues. As an example.
I mean, if there's an API for issues, then people could build plugins, extensions, add-ons, all that, which I think is like kind of a standard way of doing it. Like Slack bots very much encourage you to like plug together APIs basically.
That's a really good find, like a well-defined issues API.
I was just thinking about. Oh, go ahead, Dustin. No.
Yeah, I don't. Just to the larger question of like issues, like it's kind of like I understand the pushback of like people who just have too much that is notifying of things, but it's like kind of a pretty standard like feature. Like it's kind of not ground floor, but a standard sort of thing that's included in applications like this. And yeah, I think the answer is just, make it easy to turn off, like make it easy to control. Asmir also suggested in the comments having like a digest as an option, which I personally was never super into, but I know some folk who like really like that way of consuming like mailing lists and things like that.
I think for every like, I don't know if it's one-to-one, but for every person who's like, don't notify me about this, there's gonna be another person that's like, I missed that somebody wrote an issue on my thing and it's been unanswered for however long. So just to like, I think the thing that people are saying, I think there should be all sorts of notifications, but just easy to tell us to be quiet.
Yeah, it's exactly the sort of case where like, when people don't like it, they'll complain loudly, but if they do like it, they might just be silent about the fact that it's working.
Totally. It sounds like the most concrete thing to do out of this is just to mock up the like notification preferences.
Yeah, I was was just going to contribute that as a thought for what to do next, because right, my collection today is data sets, at least in theory, that I've created. Well, maybe not. No, this is a data. I suppose if it's in my collection, this is a data set that I follow. If this is my name, this is a data set that I am the owner of. And so there might need to be managed notifications from here, and just let me make that thing.
You said follow, but I think you mean that you're a collaborator on. Right.
I did say follow, and I did mean follow, just because this word is still here. But yes, I think the new parlance is like we're working together on this data. I suppose. Well, that's I guess another question. Like, will there ever be a? Well, 130 to me is such a big number that it seems like these are like people who subscribe to the Turnstile data set. They're certainly not editors, but they're viewers, right?
Right, and they are notified, and they are potentially notified when something changes. I think that's, I don't know. Yeah. Is there a notion of, can you follow a data set and not actually have anything happen? Is it just like putting your name on a list to say like, I am into this? Or does it imply that you know, as a follower, something will happen? I mean, I don't know. That's what we should talk about. Can you be a follower without receiving any notifications, or is it just putting your name on a list?
I think if you follow a data set that never changes, then yeah, you're never going to get any updates. Yeah. But if you follow a data set and it changes, then yeah, you're going to get an email.
Yeah.
When
okay.
It changes.
So then this is probably my question: is if I arrive at this data set, if I get this link to this data set, it therefore has been shared with me in at least a view only capacity. Mm-hmm. Would I even see this follow button?
Totally.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm looking at a one-off, but if this is me subscribing to updates.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So this is purely for the data consumer persona, someone who just wants to be told when this thing changes.
Okay. Cool.
Versus collaborators, which are people who are working together to build the data set.
Question. What is the icon? So in the body, there's like the header that says body with what's the icon to the right of that?
What do you want it to be?
It looks like full screen to me.
Perfect.
Okay, cool.
And
it goes to a page that's just the body with none of the rest of the Chrome. Is that right?
It'll look like this.
Yeah, I don't think. It will just make the body take up as much of the window as possible. It's like putting the body in a modal, and then you can dismiss it, and you're back on the same view.
Cool. Okay. I mean,
so you're not necessarily like navigating away. You're just kind of like, it's like full screening a YouTube video.
Right. That's literally what I was thinking. Which
zoom in, enhance.
At first seemed strange because it's not a video, and when I thought about it, I'm like, oh, that's just a full view of the body. Then.
Any feedback, Dustin, on this icon? Should the space be larger? Should it be like 4 little corners?
I can't answer that. I'm not a designer, so I don't want to. I don't know. I mean, yeah. Should it be right-aligned?
It wasn't an obvious expand to you. I mean, it was. You figured it out.
You guessed correctly.
No, clicking the button.
Yeah.
I think it was obvious. It's just for whatever reason at first I was like, that doesn't make sense why you'd want that. And then I thought about it for 2 seconds and it was obvious.
If you weren't on this call and not in control, you would have clicked on it and you would have learned very quickly what it does. And it would be very low risk.
Right.
As long as we make sure we build in the like escape key takes you back, which is what I want.
Yeah. Is that view going to have like filters or like functionality for the data set? I mean, that's a whole other can of worms. I don't want the answer to that question.
The answer is eventually yes.
Okay.
In the near term, no.
Sure.
Not V1 or whatever.
Exactly.
I actually think, again, in V3, I think that'll be important. I mean, when I've been down on this view, like if nothing in these 5-10 rows ever changes, then as I click through this is going to be the same screen unless I scroll down. So maybe saying like, just, you know, whatever, filter by something, and then let me scroll through them. I could see that being a useful thing.
I was doing this the other day on the New York City Open Data Portal, just because like there's a little UI for it. It's a little clunky, but like you can just say, you know, filter for rows that, you know, filter for rows that have, you know, that start with these 3 characters in this column. And it's so fast. It's so much faster than trying to download it and load it up somewhere. And it just is like, just, is this in the data set? Does it exist? And once I know that, I'll probably end up downloading that data set to do something with it later, but I just need to like, that's still part of the process of like figuring out if this is something I'm interested in, is like some kind of lightweight exploratory queries. So I'm sure that will come up again for sure, like just a matter of when.
Cool. Okay, so we were trying to keep this to 35 minutes. If there are burning questions, we can talk about them offline, but otherwise, you know, if you have something you've noticed about these wires, they change on the daily, but please reach out, and if you've got strong opinions about what should be missing, what should be there, what is missing, what could be displayed in different ways, and we'd love to build this with you. Cool. All right, everybody. See you.
Thank you.
Until next time.
Thanks for presenting, Rico.
Always.
Take care.